Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, this is Universe University you are attending. You guys are in Astrology 101 and I'm your professor, excuse me. I'm your professor Ocean Goddess, okay? And I am here to teach you guys about astrology, okay? So today we are currently in chapter 3. So what that means is that we have now gone over the planets, the zodiac signs, and now we will be going over the house system, okay? So chapter 3 is all about the house system. So let's get right on into it. So okay, so you guys may be wondering, what is the house system? So most horoscopic traditions of astrology systems divide the divide them into usually 12 houses, whose positions depend on time and location rather than on date. The houses of horoscope represent different fields of experience wherein the energies of the signs and planets operate, described in terms of physical surroundings as well as personal life experiences. So what this means is that depending on what sign your rising is in or your ascendant is in, it will kind of set up the whole house system for you. So if you're Aries rising, then your houses will be set up from Aries to Pisces, from first house to 12th house, because Pisces is the last sign, Aries is the first sign. So let's say that you are a Libra rising. So your first house will be in Libra, and your last house, your 12th house, will be in Scorpio. I'm sorry, I said that completely wrong. It will be in Virgo. My math was a little off there. My bad. So yeah, if your first house is in Libra, your 12th house will be in Virgo. Okay? So it will be set up depending on what house is in your first house. So it is going to be set up in chronological order depending on what sign it starts in. So the reason why this depends on time and location rather than date is because your date will more or less tell you what's your sun sign. But if you're wanting to know your sun sign, your moon sign, what houses your sun and moon, Mercury is in, you want to know more details about your chart and not just, oh, I am a Capricorn. You want to know more about yourself, then you go and you search it up, and when you put in a location and the time, then it will tell you what's your rising sign and what signs and what planets fall into each house, because you can be a Capricorn sun in the first house, or you could be a Capricorn sun in the 10th house, and those things have totally different energies within them. They will have totally different life paths within them. So you can kind of find out a lot of this information from even learning the house system and what it entails, okay? And this is why the house system is important in astrology. Now, I hope you guys are keeping up. I hope this is making sense, because this is the reason why I set this up the way I did in the first place, where we get to know the planets, then we get to know the signs, then we get to know the houses, okay? And I kind of did go in order of the Black Moon Astrology book, but again, I just really like the way the book is set up, and I think this is a great way for us who are just getting to know astrology to learn. So anyways, let's get right into talking about the first house, okay? So just so you know, let's just get this out the way up here. So the first house is known as the body, okay? Your physical self. So some things that correlate with this is your appearance, the way you come across, the body, the face you show the world, new starts, and beginnings. So some things that kind of correlate to the first house is Aries. Now, you don't have to have Aries in the first house, but the first house has a lot of Aries energy because it is the first house. You get it? So along with that, we have Mars energy could be very significant about this house. Now, it doesn't mean that you have Mars in this house. It just means that you have some type of Aries, Mars type of energy sitting in this house because it is the first house. So your first house will tell you what your ascendant or your rising sign is, and it will also deal with your physicality. So a lot of the time, depending on what sign or what planet you have in the first house, your personality or the way you come off to others, or just sometimes even the way that you look, can be sometimes based around these planets or the sign that is in your first house. So For example, they say that, Scorpio placements have very sharp defining features. So you may have sharp eyes or sharp eyebrows, or you know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. So that's what I mean when I say that whatever sign you have as your rising sign you can kind of decipher your looks or your physicality through traits of that sign at times, okay? So anyways, let's get more information on the first house. So, the first house in astrology begins with the ascendant, the astrological constellation rising over the eastern horizon at the time the chart is cast. In the natal chart, the ascendant represents the moment you were born. To break this down, the ascendant is the point where the spirit, the sky, and the matter, the earth, meet, and your spirit is able to materialize itself through entering your body. The first house is one of the most important parts of the horoscope. The first house represents your important physical appearance, how your body works, and where your strength and weaknesses will lie. It is the beginning to everything. The first house is also the mask that everyone else first sees. Although the first house is the house of self, it is also your persona, who you project. It is how you relate to the world first. Okay? So, that's a lot on the first house. So I hope you guys really understand what the house system is like and what the first house is like. So now let's move on to the second house. So the second house is about owning. It is about what is owned, spending, value, money, business affairs, laying down foundations, and recognizing what is valuable. So some things that correlate to the first house is Taurus, because as we know, Taurus is the second sign. So you will have a lot of Taurus energy. You might not have Taurus in your second house, okay? Make that very clear. You may not have Taurus in your second house, but the second house has Taurus values, okay? It also has values of Venus, because Venus is Taurus's planet. And we also have money. So if you want to look into your chart and see what kind of relationship you might have to money, you might want to check out what planets and what sign is in your second house. We have physical possessions and intuition. And when I say intuition, it's kind of just things that are just, you just know on a whim. You just know. You don't know how you know. You just know. And Taurus kind of does deal with that intuition. So if you want to see how you can better your intuition, what things you can do to work with your intuition, go ahead and check out what sign or what planets you may have in the second house. And if you do not have any planets in your second house or your first house, that is not a bad thing. If you want to know more about how you can relate to this house, just check out the sign in that house if you do not have any planets in that house, okay? Alright, cool. So let's get some more on the second house. The second house is about being grounded in the physical. It is the house of money, and it is about what you own and movable goods. Ruled by the sign of Taurus, the second house is also about solid reality, creature comforts, lifestyle, and areas supported primarily in the physical realm. It is the key to your power in the world, how you feel empowered and disempowered. The second house isn't always to do with money and possessions. It is about ownership of talents, maintaining comfortable shelter, living up to personal values, and self-esteem. It is also about what we decide to utilize or manifest in the physical realm. The desired result, which will always which will always be quantifiable rewards, comfort, and also familial happiness. Familial happiness. So it does deal with, when I say familial happiness, I mean like happiness in your family. Cool beans. Alright, so that is a little bit more on the second house. So it does deal with comforts. And another thing that I don't think that they said is food. Okay, so fun fact, if you want to know like what, like a little bit more about what you like to eat. Let's say that you really love sweets. If you really love sweets, check it out and see if you have either a water sign in your second house, or if you have like Neptune, Moon, or what else? Neptune, Moon. What else is a planet that likes sweets? Venus. See if you have any of those type of planets in your second house. Also check the sign, because the sign does matter. Like I said, if you have some type of water sign or something, check it out and see if, you know, if you have any of those things I just named and you have like an affinity towards sweets, that may be why, okay? But anyways, your second house can also deal with the type of foods that you like to eat, or maybe how much you like to eat. Anyways, second house also deals with comforts, and comforts are food, and Taurus love food, so I just had to add that in. Now, like I said, you don't have to have Taurus in the second house, but the second house has Taurus values. All right, let's move forward. So third house we have covers messages, covers, really I would like to say communication, but we're just going to say messages. So some things that the third house deals with is short journeys, the neighborhood, siblings, signing documents, communication, and rumors. So some things that correlate with the third house is Gemini, Mercury, communication, primary schooling, and driving cars, or the cars you may own, or the cars just driving. I'm sorry, not the cars you own. I take that back. Just driving, like how you drive. You know what I'm saying? Are you a good driver? Are you a bad driver? Like that. The actual action of driving. So anyways, yeah, so this house has Gemini values because this is a house of communication. All right. This also deals with Mercury. As we know, Mercury belongs to, or Gemini belongs to planet Mercury, or whatever, however you want to say that. But with that being said, the third house overall takes those type of Gemini values, no matter what planet is or what sign is in the house. So anyways, let's get a little bit more in the third house. The third house is the area of the astrological chart that reveals how we think, speak, and communicate. It signifies our need to know and demonstrates how we put our concepts and thoughts into words. You are in search of answers and need to unlock mystery, but your mind is agile. So and so and so and so and so. Okay, we're gonna skip that. My bad. Let's go back. The third house is the area of the astrological chart that reveals how we think, speak, and communicate. It signifies our needs to know and demonstrates how we put our concepts into thoughts and words. So that is a very good breakdown of the third house overall, because third house does affect how we communicate, but also how we think before we communicate. So let's see. Let me give you guys an example. Let's say that you guys have Scorpio in the third house. You guys may be very more private about your thoughts and how you speak. You may be a little bit more timid, or you may be wanting to hold information back because you either feel like the information you have is too intense for everybody else to actually deal with, or you might feel like you want to withhold the information until you know for a fact that it is correct. Okay? So that can be some type of values of Scorpio. Let's say also you have Scorpio in the third house. You may like driving at nighttime. Okay, those are just, you know, what it may be like. Okay, so anyways, I hope you guys get that. Let's move forward into the fourth house. So the fourth house is known as the house of roots. Roots being where we come from, where we you know, come from. Who's your mom? Who's your dad? So some aspects about the fourth house are the home, domestic issues, the mother, the father, ancestry, the tribe, old age, the end of matter. So some things that correlate to the fourth house is Cancer, moon, emotions, mom, room slash house, decor. Your room or house decor, okay? The fourth house does deal with the home. As you see, we do have Cancer here and the moon here. And Cancers, as the crab of the zodiac, are really, really worried about their home space, because they are their home space. Their home space is with them. They are shellfish. You get me? So the fourth house can also have a lot to do with our emotions and how we show them. Another way to see, if you want to see it like how emotions are shown, is to check out where your moon lands in your chart, because your moon does not have to land in your 4th house. However, the 4th house does have values of the moon here and Cancer here that deals with emotions. So let's say, for example, you have let's say you have, what's a good planet? And let's just say you have Cancer, just because. Let's say you have Cancer in the 4th house. You may be very private about your emotions. You may only show your emotions to those that you are very intimate with. Okay, you may not like to wear your emotions on your sleeve. You may deal with your emotions in private and come back out and then show your true face to the world. However, if you have maybe a Cancer moon or Cancer in the 4th house, you may like to retreat when you get very emotional. But on the other side, on the flip side of the coin, you are very, 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 very what should I say for this? You will be more inclined to helping others with their emotions on a more public or just outside of your home basis, on a less private note. You are so ready to help anybody else with their emotions. However, when it comes to your own, you tend to like to want to deal with them by yourself. So this could be something like dealing with a Cancer moon, or if you have your moon in the 4th house and it's in Cancer. So these are just some combinations like that. So anyways, let's get more on the 4th house. The 4th house is ruled by the moon, and it governs the feelings, all the ways we are touchy and emotional, dreams, and our soul's yearnings. It signifies the home, family, the earliest phase of childhood, even the time shortly before birth when we are still in the womb. It is the babe within the womb. It is cover that protects us from the world. This house represents nurturing, giving nourishment, and safety. It symbolizes mothering and motherhood, and also the father who is able to mother and nurture his offspring. The 4th house shows the beginning of the family, and it holds the memories of our ancestors. It represents the putting down of roots and the foundation to everything in our lives, our heritage, and our tribal affiliations. The 4th house, in the 4th house, the self is centered and grounded, but also likes to hide away, as well as caretaking. It also represents hidden treasures and a place to retreat. There is both gentleness and emotional rawness in the 4th house. Okay, so anyways, I hope that helped you guys to understand the 4th house a little bit better if you guys didn't really pick up on the way I was explaining it. So anyways, let's go straight to the 5th house. So in the 5th house is the house of creativity. So some things that are 5th house values are childhood / children, creativity, the stage, staying open, hobbies, having fun, festivities, and free expression. So some things that correlate to the 5th house is Leo, the sun, and attraction. Okay, when I say attraction, I mean like emotional attraction, or like kind of even like physical attraction, like what type of person you're most likely to be attracted to, or what type of looks you're most likely to be attracted to, or what makes your heart flutter in that type of way. Because the 5th house kind of does deal with love, but like in a raw way. You know what I'm saying? Like literally what gets your heart going, because we have Leo here, which Leo is the hearts, you know what I'm saying, the lion, and the lion has courage, okay. Anyways, when I say the stage, I say because Leo is literally the spotlight, it's the sun, so it's how we react to the spotlight. So anyways, let's get some more on the 5th house. So if the zodiac had a fun house, it would be the 5th house. Pleasure, creativity, and children are all elements of this house. Being ingenious and in the limelight is another element. We find our childlike imaginations through storytelling and fantasy. Playing is very much what the 5th house is all about. That is why this part of the chart also rules over romance, especially the beginning stages. As children, our imaginations know no bounds. We indulge in creative performances when as adults we dip into this field we allow our minds and hearts to roam free and produce masterpieces. When the fifth house brings romance, we also enter a kind of playfulness, a sensual joy that happens inside of the playground adulthood. So the fifth house is where how we like to have fun. You know what I'm saying? So let's say you have a fire sign in the fifth house. You are a ball of fun, okay? And if you have an earth sign in the fifth house, you may be a little bit more on the introverted side when it comes to things that normal people or that society normally finds fun. You may be more of a person that likes to stay, more professional, and it just it may take you a little bit to actually get out your shell and have fun. You know what I'm saying? So it also depends, like I said, depends on what sign, depends on what planet. But anyways, this is how we have fun. So earth signs may have fun in a different way than how fire signs have fun. You get me? So anyways, fifth house also deals with children. So when I say it deals with children, it could be the things that draw you back to your inner child, things you like to do as a child to have fun. It also represents the children that we are going to have, or the children that we do have, and how we may raise our children, or how we may treat our children. So if you have an earth sign in your fifth house, you may be more of I don't want to say strict parent, but you may be more of a more organized and um maybe like very realistic. I don't want to say that anybody's not realistic, but that's the approach they take to parenting, or the approach you might take to parenting. Whereas a fire sign may have a more fiery approach to parenting. They may want to have a lot of fun. They just maybe they want their kids, or they have a lot of fun with their kids, and that's their style of parenting. So you can also check out your style of parenting by seeing what planets, or what sign you have in the fifth house. So that's another fun fact. So the sixth house, we have routine. Okay, so we have the daily routine, healing, thought, discernment, small animals, work/job, and orderliness. So some things that are third house, or third house values, or third house energies. I'm sorry, I said third house. Excuse me. I said third house because I see this little 3 right here. That's my bad. Sixth house. Some sixth house values or energies come from Virgo, Mercury/Earth, because I feel like Virgo Virgo does belong to Mercury, but I feel like Virgo has Earth values as well. And health. Okay? So, let's get straight into the sixth house. Let's read a little bit more on the sixth house. So the sixth house is ruled by the mutable sign Virgo and the planet Mercury. In the horoscope, it is the area of routine in everyday life. It is not so much a dazzling place as it has to do with the ordinary. It rules the body differently than the first house, and specifically your health, especially the digestive tract. This house reminds us what we should do to maintain good health, and in this, diet figures in. Anything that comes under alternative health or various approaches to strengthen the body in supporting a healthy lifestyle all falls under the category of the sixth house. The sixth house is all about duty, responsibility, and gainful employment. It shows how hard you work and how organized you are, how much you worry, and what you do on a daily 9-to-5 basis. This is why it is also looked upon as the house of the job, how you earn a living as an everyday citizen. Okay? So Virgo, I said Virgo. I'm saying all type of shit except for the sixth house. You guys gotta excuse me. So when it comes to the sixth house deals with our daily routine, what we do every day, what is our everyday schedule like. So depending on the planets you have in this house, it can kind of show you how you set up your everyday life, or how your everyday life is perceived by others, so on and so forth, or what energies affect your everyday life. So, and also your pets. Sixth house does deal with pets, but mostly smaller animals, okay? So, and depending on the planet here, you may like larger animals, you may like more exotic animals. However, the sixth house does deal with pets. I also like to associate the 11th and the 5th house with pets as well. And the 5th house, because animals kind of relate to the 5th house. being that it is literally Leo's house, and Leo is what? A lion animal. So that's why I say that, because the fifth house does like represent childhood and children. So like some people see their dogs as their babies, or their cats as their, their animals as their babies. So just a small bit. I would say the fifth house mostly like how you may treat your pets or animals. And sixth house is like the type of animals you may like, while the 11th house is more like the type of animal you may want to get. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, that's how I look at it. So not saying that my way is the way it should be, but that's the way that I like to decode things. It usually has some type of correlation anyways. So anyways, moving forward, the sixth house is what we do. It is how you work as an employee or as a boss. Are you more suited to be an employee, or are you more suited to be your own CEO? You can figure out these things by looking in your sixth house. Also, if you're wanting to, figure out what's the best way to actually stay motivated to, with working out, and stay motivated with having a healthier lifestyle or diet. And if you're trying to figure out how you can incorporate this into your life, you can check out what signs are in your house, in your sixth house, or what planets are in your sixth house, because it will let you, if you can, break it down yourself. For example, if you have Virgo in the sixth house, or you have Mercury in the sixth house, you may be very keen about your health. You may want to live a very healthy, lifestyle, and you may just do that. It may come to you a little bit more naturally and a little bit more easily. And let's say if things aren't working in your favor, you might turn to sweets as a kind of a comfort. You know what I'm saying? So that is just a little breakdown. I mean, that's just like very just minuscule things I can just say off the top of my head. But anyways, yes, so if you're wanting to get to know like what kind of workout routine should I have, what's the best way for me to figure out what kind of diets to implement in my life. So let's say you have Aquarius or Uranus in the sixth house, you may want to do things a little bit more unusually than the next. Your daily schedule may be a little bit unusual. The type of workouts that you do or where you work out may be unusual from the rest. The things you want to eat may be a little bit more unusual, you know what I'm saying? Or the time of day you eat may be a little bit more unusual from the norm, okay? And that's what I'm trying to say, okay? So let's move forward to the seventh house. So the seventh house is the house of partners. So we have marriage, partners, true love, the other person, rivals, open enemies, courts, and lawsuits. Some values to the seventh house, where we get these energies and things from, is Libra and Venus. So now we already did talk about Venus, but Venus was kind of some values of the second house, but it was more Taurus values. Okay, and Libra Venus and Taurus Venus are kind of different things, because Libra is going to deal with our partnerships. Seventh house is going to deal with our partnerships, and our partnerships when it comes to platonic partnerships, romantic partnerships, and business partnerships. While the second house deals more so with our money, our possessions, and our comforts, that side of Venus, just so you guys get a feel. Also, Libra is an air sign, Taurus is a earth sign, so that is also a big difference. So like I said, romantic / platonic commitments, business partners, and the contracts. So depending on what house and what planet is in your seventh house, you can see what kind of people you may attract to you, or what type of people you may be attracted to. Did I say that the right way? What people you might be attracted to, what people might be attracted to you. Okay, you can also see what type of business partners, and maybe how they work with you. Also, when I say contracts, it could mean marriage, it could mean business contracts. It just literally means the signing of documents, okay? Important documents. So we have open enemies. So seventh house could also tell you who your open enemies are depending on the sign. So let's say you have Taurus in your seventh house. There may be a Taurus that just doesn't fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean by that. Doesn't mean it has to be, but it could be. Um, so let's read on the seventh house, guys. So the seventh house is the area of the chart that represents the other, since it is opposed to the first house of the self. Okay, yes, the first house and the seventh house are opposites. So now we're getting into our oppositions. So if you watch the sign videos, if you watch the planet videos, you will know that Aries and Libra are opposites. That makes the first house and the seventh house opposite from each other. That Mars and Venus are opposites to each other. So let's say you have a planet in your first house and you have a planet in your seventh house. There's a strong chance that those planets oppose each other in your natal chart. Okay, now let's keep moving forward. Since it is opposed to the first house, the self, the seventh house deals with your partner. Traditionally, it has been thought of to be the house of marriage and marriage partners, and although this may still be a primary meaning of the other, it can also include friends and family and peer groups. So it can mean the significant others such as co-workers. Since it is the traditional house of Libra, it governs fairness, balance, and the law. It is also the house of open enemies. When the seventh house, oh, oops, okay. So when we are talking about the seventh house, these are things that we usually think of. So we did say the fifth house deals with love. It deals with love as an attraction sense, as a more emotional sense, in that type of way. Whereas the seventh house deals with love in as more of a commitment type of way, who you are committed to. Because let's be completely honest, we can be in love with somebody that we are not actually committed to. So that is the difference, guys. In between marriage and love with the seventh house and the fifth house. So let me try to give you guys an example. If you have Aries in the seventh house, you may either attract Aries, or you can attract the more independent, self-made type of person, whether that would be with the feminine energy or a feminine person that's actually a female, or the male, whatever the case may be. Whether it doesn't matter what if they're female or male, if you have Aries in the seventh house, whatever sexuality you're attracted to, however that goes for you, you're kind of more attracted to the more independent and self-made type, the type of person that knows how to make their own decisions in life, and type of person that kind of has their own compass that they follow. Because if you have Aries in the seventh house, chances are you got Libra in the first house, and having Libra in the first house will kind of make you a little bit more on the passive side of things, maybe a little bit more indecisive about things. So what you want out of a partner is the opposite to yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's where that comes in. That's why the first house and the seventh house has that opposition. But oppositions don't necessarily mean bad. It just means that they're opposites, or they're opposing, or they have different values. So anyways, let's move forward into the eighth house. In the eighth house, we have endings/beginnings. So some things about the eighth house: we have passing away, shared resources, legacies, dangers, the unknown, the occult, ghost, and debts. So some values, some where we get these energies from is Scorpio, Pluto. We have inheritance because we have shared resources. So the eighth house does deal with inheritance and mediumship slash psychic. So if you have significant planets in the eighth house, you may realize that you may have like really good psychic abilities, or maybe you guys have a certain like affinity towards ghosts or the dead, or what happens when we die. You know what I'm trying to say? Because Scorpio is usually known as a more darker sign. Now that doesn't mean that you are dark. No, it does not. However, Scorpio and the eighth house does deal with the unknown, which is unknown. So we do think of dark things like the color black, or death, or so on and so forth. But that does not always have to be literal. It could be transformational. It could be a death to a certain type of lifestyle. It could be a death to a certain type of relationship. Okay, so don't be scared. If you have planets in the eighth house, it doesn't mean that you're gonna die. Okay, so don't worry about that. It's just really a good way to say, I guess, transformation and how you transform when we're dealing with Scorpio, when we're dealing with Pluto, when we're dealing with the eighth house. So let's get some more on the eighth house. Okay, so in astrology, the eighth house represents the long dark night before the light comes, where a new dawn is on the way, but you need to grapple with darkness and the unknown a little while longer. Traditionally, the eighth house is about sex, death, psychic powers, control, and material things such as money and inheritance, that which belongs to other people, but things you will end up owning, or at least partly. It also represents the time of the year when Halloween or Samhain takes place. It also involves all dark gothic things associated with it. Okay, so there you go. Eighth house does remind me of Halloween. I was gonna say that. So those are some things that you can kind of think about when you think about the eighth house. Okay. So let's say if you have Gemini in the eighth house, you may be like very fascinated with the knowledge on like what happens in the afterlife. You may be very fascinated to have knowledge on ghosts and people who have had experience with ghosts. You may be very attracted to like watching things about detectives and getting information, or even becoming a detective yourself if you have Gemini here. So having Gemini in the eighth house, you would want to get to know the information, or you want to get knowledge on the unknown. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? Gemini deals with what? Knowledge, because it's Mercury, the planet of information. Okay, so this is how you would break that down. For example, you had Gemini in the eighth house, or Mercury in the eighth house. Mercury in the eighth house will be probably a little bit different from having Gemini in the eighth house, but I'm not going to go through that right now. So, now we have the ninth house. Ninth house is about faith. So, some things about the ninth house: we have media, publishing, long distance travel, higher education, churches, divination, and astrology. So some things that belong to the ninth house, or some energies that we have kind of over the ninth house, is Sagittarius, Jupiter, and foreign culture. Okay, so let's think about this for a second. The ninth house would be opposite to the third house, because if you didn't realize yet, houses oppose each other once they're 6 houses away. So every 6 houses there's opposition. So first house, opposition with 7th house. Second house is opposition with the 8th house. Third house is opposition with the 9th house. Get it? I hope you guys get it. So since they're opposites, third house deals with short distance travel. Now we have long distance travel, which correlates to foreign culture, because it's things that are more far away from us. Okay, this is the 9th house may signify how you travel, where you travel, or if you're going to be meeting significant people from another culture, or if people from other cultures or other cultures in general will be more significant in your life. It also deals with the type of higher education you might receive, or your relationship to higher education. Also will deal with your relationship to faith, and whether what your religion is, if you're religious, and what are your religious beliefs. Okay, and that will also depend on what planets and what signs you may have in the 9th house. Now, I think I've been talking about this long enough, and I did not bring this up at all. So, I'm sorry, you guys, that I'm just now bringing this up. But if you've been watching the video this long, then it means you really care about it anyway. You really care about what I'm saying anyways. So, oh my gosh, you guys will not believe it. I just had a brain fart. I guess I'm not meant to tell you guys right now. Okay, let's read about the 9th house. If I remember, I will bring it back up. So sorry, guys. Ninth house. The 9th house in astrology is also the house position for the sign Sagittarius, and is ruled by the planet Jupiter, the planet of openness, luck, and expansion. This area of the traditional horoscope wheel is the house of travel, philosophy, high-mindedness, and also religion. The 9th house represents a search for meaning through established structures. Things that do with the government and religion may come about whenever the 9th house is included. Destiny, fate, and karma all come into play, as well as your view of what God may or may not be. It is the house of erudite knowledge, higher learning, lawyers, doctors, and astrologers. It most definitely of the higher mind and our need to unite with something greater. In this way, the 9th house represents churches, schools, especially ones that are old, established, and scholarly, like college. So it could also decipher your relationship with going to college. If you go to college far, if you go to college, if you stay in the area, you know what I'm saying? So depending on what planets and what signs you have in ninth house, you can kind of use that information to see what's your relationship to higher knowledge, what's your relationship to religion, and things of that nature. So like, let's say you have your moon in the ninth house. You may have a really spiritual mother or a really religious mother. Okay, it could be either or. Now, the moon deals with mom, so that's where I get that from. Ninth house deals with religion. So you could also have a mom that maybe has a college degree or higher education. You know, maybe your mom, is a Sagittarius. Maybe your mom has significant Jupiter placements. Maybe your mom was living long distance from you. That's just some things you can kind of figure out. Okay, now you don't have to have all those things, but let me tell you something. If you have moon in the ninth house, you probably got one of those things I just named. So that's how we can kind of use the astrology to pick up on how things work in our life. Okay, so now let's go to the 10th house. All right, so the 10th house, we have the world, okay? So the 10th house, when you look in your astrology chart, you'll see something that says MC, okay? Now, your MC, I forgot exactly what MC stands for, but your MC is kind of like, it kind of signifies like what type of career type you might be or what type of career you might have. So let's say you have your MC in Gemini. You may be somebody that has multiple career paths because Geminis like to, they like to play with a lot of toys. They're the child of the zodiac, so they like to play with a lot of different things at a lot of different time. They just got to keep that mind going. So you're the type of person that you need to have a type of career that's going to keep you mentally focused and mentally, what's the word I want to say, stimulated. And there's a higher chance of you working as an entrepreneur because Geminis like to, have their hands in different fields and things of that nature. So let's say if you have MC in Scorpio, if you have MC in Scorpio, you may be more inclined to working with or being a detective or working with forensics or being what else Scorpio values have. You may be a medium even. So these are some things we can tell by our 10th house or our MC. So another way you can tell by what's in your 10th house is if you look at your MC in your birth chart. So some things about the 10th house is life's calling, what you must do, your career, the mother, the father, glory, reputation, and fame. Now, so we are at the 10th house. So what is opposite to the 10th house? The 4th house. The 4th house deals with our at-home life, who we are at home, who we are in our emotions, who we are when we are in our safe space. Now the 10th house deals with the world. So this is how you act in the public. This is how this is how you want the public eye to see you. Okay, this is what you want to be recognized for. Okay, this is your reputation. And it also deals with the mother and the father because the 4th house deals with the mother and the father, but more so in a nurturing, emotionally, mother type of way. Whether it was your mother or father that was more nurturing. It'll just tell you how you got that nurturing in life based off of what planets, what signs are there. Now the 10th house is more so like the fatherly type because we have Capricorn here, which is Saturn. It's more the wisdom and the fatherly type because the father. When we think of fathers, we think of somebody who's able to give us wisdom and life learned lessons and so and so and so. Now, either way, it both deals with the parents because some of us have moms that were more like dads and some of us have dads that were more like moms, so on and so forth. Some of us have totally different crazy situations, but it will all depend on what you may have in these houses. So yeah, we do definitely have Capricorn energy here because it deals with our career. Well, Capricorn deals with the career while Cancer deals with the home, which will be the 4th house. So we have Saturn here, recognition, and your niche. So let's read about the 10th house, guys. In astrology, the 10th house, which is at the top of the zodiac, embodies the masculine principle and represents the father or primary male influence, or at least a very powerful influential man. It could also represent the man in a woman's life because the 10th house opposes the 4th house. It can sometimes represent the woman or the mother in your life, but mostly the 10th house stands for reputation, your reputation and standing. Excuse me, guys. This is an ambitious. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not reading that. Because the 10th house is the house of Capricorn, it indicates that you're. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not reading any of that. Um, my bad. So yes, the 10th house is, it represents a primary male influence in our life, or it can represent your father or the man in your life. So for some of us who don't have a man in our life, you know, because we are the man in our lives, this could be like your best bud, your best guy friend, your most influential uncle, grandfather, um, brother, that type of, just a man, or it could even be just be a mentor or a teacher, but a man that has that type of influence. Now it doesn't have to be a man, it could also be a woman, but this woman just has those more masculine type of energies. Okay, so the point here is that there's some type of masculine wisdomic, is that a word? Probably not. Wisdomic energy about them as far as it goes with a person. But this house is more so about our career and how we are recognized by the world. So not to get it confused with what you do on an everyday basis as your job, even though those are similar things, they are different. Okay, so I hope you guys get that. So also, depending on what you have in your 10th house, you can receive a lot of fame, or you could just receive a lot of fame in your community. It doesn't have to be like on a, I'm a famous, you know, Michael Jackson famous, but it can also just be like, I'm famous in my community, I'm well known at my school, I'm well known somewhere, you know, or the type of recognition or fame that you are going to get. So again, with the Gemini, like I was saying, if you have Gemini in the 10th house, you may be known for multiple things. You may get recognition for multiple things as somebody who wants to be more of an entrepreneur type. So let's say you have Cancer in the 10th house. You may be known for the way that you nurtured your community, or the way that you nurtured the people around you, so on and so forth. Um, so yeah, if you want to know what your niche is like, you know, what you may be recognized for, how the world may recognize you, or the things that you may get a lot of fame and recognition for, go ahead and check out what's in your 10th house. So let's move forward to the 11th house. The 11th house is where we concentrate on our friends, okay? So this could be sources of help, alliances, groups, friends. 11th house also deals with our goals, hopes, wishes, dreams, technology, and invention. So some things that rule over the 11th house is Aquarius, Uranus, and the use of knowledge. Now, we're getting to the nitty gritty. We're almost to the 12th house. We're literally one house away. So the 11th house will be opposite to our 5th house, which is the Leo house, which is the sun house. You get me? So if you've been watching my videos, now you've seen how everything is starting to fall into place. So with this house, it does deal with technology. Now, the 3rd house does deal with communication, and it can deal with the devices we use to communicate with. However, on a higher octave, 11th house deals with actual technology, like the apps on our phone, the games, and, you know, technology. Not so much devices, but actual internet and invention, okay? So also the 11th house, this is how we use the knowledge that we have gained from the 3rd house and the 9th house, and the things that we have gained through our contracts with our 7th house. This is how we use all the knowledge we have gained, and even the emotional knowledge we have gained with our more watery houses, okay? But once you get to the 11th house, this is kind of like how you're going to put this knowledge to use, okay? And, you know, how we use our knowledge, you know, once we get knowledge, we're able to invent things. You understand? So anyways, let's read some more about the 11th house. The 11th house is all about associations and how we connect to others. It is the house of group alliances, ideals, and our aspirations in a public or social arena. The 11th house is commonly referred to as the house of friends, but it is so much more than that. It has everything to do with the collective that comes from groups, people who identify and align with others to make a social change. By combining our energies with others, we can make our world, but more importantly, the domain of others is a better place. The 11th house has much to do with our destiny, what we decide to give before we leave this earth, our soul's purpose. The 11th house deals with the greater good and living up to an ideal. Okay? So, when we're dealing with the 11th house kind of is more on a societal basis. As you can see, we went from being very personal with ourselves to the first house to getting a partner in the 7th house. And then when we get to the 10th house, this is how the world recognizes us. This is what we are reputable for. And now we're getting to deal with society as a whole, as a community. Okay, so 11th house is more so about the community. Not how big the community is, not where the community is, but the community and what kind of community we would like to surround ourselves with and what kind of friends or social activities we like to partake in. So, for example, let's say you have Sun in the 11th house. You may be somebody who likes to rock solo or only have like very close friends. You know what I'm saying? You're not really want to have a group of friends because the Sun is kind of like the solo dolo, while you know, this is the house of friends and groups and things of that nature. So you may also be more of the leader type if you have your Sun in the 11th house. Okay. Now it will also depend on what sign is in the house, so don't rule that out. That does matter to an extent. So let's say that you have Neptune in the 11th house. You may have an abundance of friends, okay? But you may need to learn how to instill some boundaries there, because when you have Neptune, there is a lack of boundaries at times when there's Neptune somewhere in any house. So you may want to have to work on your boundaries with your group of friends, okay? So anyways, oh, another thing is, because signs do have a kind of energies attached to them, such as feminine and masculine. So let's say if you have Sun in your first house, I'm sorry, in your 11th house, you may be the type of person that likes to rock solo dolo, or you may be the type of person that is usually more of a leader and have maybe very close associates rather than have a whole group of associates. And since the Sun is a more masculine, has more masculine energy to it, you may attract more masculine friends. Again, it does depend on what sign your Sun may be in, but you may either attract more masculine friends, or let's say if your Sun is in Virgo, you may attract masculine friends, but they may be more, have a more feminine vibe to them because of that Virgo. You know what I'm saying? Or it could just be a woman. It could be Virgos. You could attract a lot of Virgos as a friend. But anyways, looking into your 11th house, that's where you can kind of see not just dealing with your friends, but how you are in a society. So let's say if you have Virgo in your 11th house, you may be the type of person that wants to give a service to society. This is the things that you do that you don't want back, you know. I'm giving service, so you may, in a way that you can give services, I don't know, like for example, I remember there's these like really well-known people going around Twitter, and like they would service the homeless by giving them haircuts and things of that nature and washing their hair. So that person they don't have to have Virgo in the 11th house, but they might, because that's the service that they give to the society. You know what I'm saying? So that's another way that you can tell some things about the 11th house. So anyways, let's move forward. Let's get into the last house, the 12th house. So the 12th house would be opposite to the 6th house, okay? And remember, let's say if you have any planets in the 6th house and you have planets in the 12th house, they will make an opposition. If you have planets in the 11th house and the 5th house, they will make an opposition, okay? So opposition just means that those energies are opposite to each other. They do complement each other in certain ways, though, so no need to worry. Opposition doesn't mean bad, okay? It doesn't mean good, doesn't mean bad. It is just, that's what it is. Okay, so in the 12th house, we have escape. Okay, so 12th house is about solitude, charity, begging, healing, visions, unconscious, exploitation, secret enemies, self-undoing, losses, and addictions. So some energies we have here that are ruling this house is Pisces, Neptune, sacrifices, and high intuition, mediumship, and psychicship. Okay, so let's get right into the 12th house. I'm just going to go ahead and read about the 12th house before I start talking about it. So the 12th house of the zodiac is the most mesmerizing of all the houses. Mysticism, dreaming, drowning, vast seas, and surrendering are all themes that belong to this house of self-undoing. It is a place in the chart where we lapse our judgment and make bad choices. Like the sign of Pisces that rules it, the 12th house falls at the end of the zodiac, which indicates a type of passage or rebirth. This house contains meanings of all signs and planets and all other houses within it. The 12th house stands for all. Even though astrologers refer to the 12th house as the gutter or the garbage dump of the zodiac, it is still distinct in its meaning. Evolved souls and the doomed lived here. Within the 12th house are the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, ruled by Neptune, the planet of confusion, drunkenness, prisoners, shut-in, saints, artists, and mystics call this home. Imagination, linking up, and connecting to the unknown are all facets of the 12th house. It is where the material and non-physical worlds connect. It is both the beginning and the end. The 12th house offers bliss, spiritual fulfillment, the meeting up with twin flames. It promises of losing yourself in some beautiful other, but it might be like trying to hold on to a cloud. This house of poetry and oceans is enchantment. It is where we lie to ourselves as well. That was a lot, guys. That was a hell of a lot. So let's talk about the 12th house. Now, what I would like to say is that the 12th house is not all bad, okay? It does get a bad rep, okay? I know it does. It sounds like, look at everything I just read, right? That's the house of self-undoing and losses. Oh my God. So let's talk a little bit more, though. So when we talk about losses, this could be death, but it does not have to be death, okay? 8th house is more so about death, okay? Now, 12th house is about losses. So these are things that we lose. You can lose life, but you can also lose a house, okay? So it's about losses. And this is where we have self-undoing, because here in the 12th house, this is where we release our ego. This is where we release the things that we thought mattered so much to us, because the 12th house is very, very spiritual house, which is also why I have high intuition and mediumship and psychicship here, because if you have 12th house placements, you have a strong chance to be you may have very prophetic dreams, because Pisces and Neptune, 12th house does deal with dreams or the escape. It deals with our unconscious. So you may have very vivid dreams, or you may have very good intuition or mediumship, or even depending on, let's say if you have Mercury in the 12th house, you may just have an abundance of knowledge, but you don't pride yourself on that knowledge, because here is where we let go of our ego. Okay, this is where we let go of our arrogance. It's the house of self-undoing, okay? And ourselves, okay, how we perceive ourselves, the self is usually equated to our ego. So this is where we undo the self. This is where we undo the ego, okay? It's nothing to be afraid of with the 12th house. I know it seems really scary, really deep, really dark. However, it's where we pay attention to our shadow side in general. So the 12th house is a very healing house, and sometimes we have to heal through losses, okay? And everything kind of connects with the 12th house. Just like how when you look at the Pisces symbol, it's literally connecting. It's literally two worlds connecting. So this is where our unconscious meets this is where our conscious meet our unconscious, okay? This is when we go to sleep and remember having a dream, okay? It's where the conscious meets the unconscious. It's where the material meets the spiritual aspect. Is where the material meets the metaphysical, or physical meets the metaphysical. There we go. So this is also a place of sacrifices. So let's say if you have Mercury here, you may sacrifice a lot of conversations, or you may sacrifice your place in a conversation, or you may sacrifice a lot of the knowledge you know, like let's say instead of talking about this knowledge or correcting somebody, or just putting yourself out there in a conversation, you are probably less likely to do that. You're probably more likely to let somebody else talk instead, because this is where we sacrifice, okay? So this is where we sacrifice a little bit of ourselves for the benefit of others, okay? And sometimes that can be a very bad thing. Sometimes it can be a good thing depending on the situation, but sometimes this can be a bad thing if we don't know when to put boundaries on it. So again, when it comes to Neptune, when it comes to Pisces, when it comes to the 12th house, this is where we lack boundaries because we are trying to interconnect. So a big issue with people, or people in having planets and specific things or really important things in our 12th house, we have to learn how to find a boundary in that area of life. So no matter what planet, no matter what sign, this is where you need to find your boundaries. So let's say you have Mercury or also even Uranus in the 12th house, you may need to find boundaries between your friends. You may spend a little bit too much time with your friends. You may not know when to cut off the time that you spend with your friends. You know what I'm saying? So this is where you want to draw the line. So this is also where we have to find our boundaries, but not overdo it, because here we can definitely overdo it with the boundaries. We can give somebody a little bit too much of ourselves in some way, shape, or form when you have planets in the 12th house. So this is where we have to be careful. And also, we have secret enemies here, okay? So, depending on what you have here. Oh, I said Uranus, but I also wanted to say Mercury, Uranus, and Venus, because Venus does deal with friends as well. So, let's say that you have Venus in the 12th house. Some of your secret enemies may be in your friend group, or even a partner of yours. They may secretly just be against you and preying on your downfall. I know it sounds really scary, but this is where we have to be a little bit more awake here, because this is literally where we're asleep. We're asleep here. We're unconscious. So this is where we have to be a little bit more vigilant. So depending on what planet you have in your house, you need to be a little bit more vigilant of the values that come with that planet. So you need to be a little bit more vigilant of your money and your friends, the company you keep, or your partner when you have Venus in the 12th house. Your partner can very well be the most jealous person ever, or your friends could be very well the most jealous person. They could be the most jealous people, and you can tell by the way that they talk to you, but you have to listen a little more when it comes to the 12th house, okay? So it also will deal with addictions, the type of addictions we have. So let's say you have Venus in the 12th house, you may be addicted to love, and this is because we don't have any boundaries here, okay? So if you have Neptune in your 12th house, guys, please cool it on the drinking, please cool it on the drug intake, because Neptune does deal with drinking, it does deal with drugs, it deals with the escape, okay? Also, if you have Neptune in the 12th house, watch out how much video games you're playing, get outside, let's get into reality a little bit, because this is where we get a little bit disconnected, and it's okay, because at times we need to be disconnected, but we don't need to be too disconnected. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, those are some things that come with the 12th house. We also have solitude, because the 12th house is a very spiritual house, because this is where our intuition really comes into play. This is where our dream and our subconscious really come into play. So another thing is, when you have any planets or things in the 12th house, let's say that you have Venus in the 12th house. I'm just gonna stick with Venus here. You may need a lot of solitude away from your friends or your partner in order to feel rejuvenated. You may need a lot of alone time, or if you have Mercury here, you may need a lot of time away to really gather your thoughts. You need to get some time away from people to really gather your thoughts and remember who you are, because if you have Mercury here, chances are you're not only dealing with your thoughts, you're dealing with the subconscious thoughts of others as well. Okay, so these are places where we need to, whatever planets we have here, this is where we need to separate ourselves from the collective. If you have Moon in the 12th house, you may need to separate yourself from others to really get to know what you're feeling inside, and not what everybody else is feeling inside. Because if you have Moon here, you may have a lot of people that feel more inclined to venting to you, dealing with others' emotions and handling other people's emotions, that you may forget about your own. So you may have to go into solitude to really figure out how you feel. Okay, so this is just a little bit about how the 12th house may work. Okay, so anyways, guys, that's all 12 houses. Okay, so Now let's put our knowledge together. So far we've learned about the planets, the signs, and the houses. As practice, I want you guys to try to use your own birth chart to see how the planets, signs, and houses affect your reality. Now, I gave you guys a good amount of examples, I feel like, for each and every house. Now, everybody's going to have something completely different going on in their charts and their houses, and there's so many other things that come into play as well, and we will talk about them as we get more into these chapters. We still have 2 chapters to go as far as our Astrology 101 class goes, so we still have chapter 4, chapter 5 to get through. So there will be a little bit more information that you guys may want to use, may want to know. So stick around for that. But if you guys feel comfortable with the knowledge you have now, you want to put some of these things to test, I definitely suggest that you do. Okay? So anyways, we have reached the end of our video. And I am not sure why this video doesn't want to play. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. There we go. There we go. Thank you guys for tuning in to Universe University. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was really long, but if you're really interested in learning about the houses, I think that you may like this video. If you did like this video, you feel like it was very informational, and you feel like it helped you learn a little bit about what the houses are about, how we use the planets, how we even use the birth chart, please leave a like, leave a comment, okay, subscribe if you're really into this content, because trust me, I have a lot more coming. In the next upcoming months and weeks, I will get back into doing some more tarot videos. So if you primarily like to watch tarot videos, look out for those things coming in the near future. But for now, thank you guys for tuning in. See you guys next class. I hope you guys have a great one. Bye bye.